Welcome to Agribusiness Global Live. My name is Dan Jacobs, Senior Editor with Agribusiness Global, and I'm your host for today's webinar, the top 5 opportunities in Southeast Asia. Before I introduce our speakers, I'd like to remind viewers that we leave 10 minutes at the end of the discussion, and it's at that time we'll take all questions in the order they were received. We'd also like to thank Rainbow for sponsoring this webinar. Now let me introduce our panelists. We have Dr. Xianghee Tan, Executive Director for CropLife Asia. Tan is responsible for directing regulatory crop protection, seeds, intellectual property, biotechnology, as well as communications and outreach programs in 15 Asian countries. Tan also serves as an advisory board member for our Agribusiness Global Southeast Asia Conference and Summit, which will be taking place on the 8th and 9th of November 2023 in Jakarta, Indonesia. Next, we have Lawrence Yu, President of AMVAC in Asia Pacific. He is responsible for AMVAC's Asia Pacific business and is leading the introduction of AMVAC's SIMPAS closed delivery system in this region, as well as the expansion of the company's Green Solution business platform. He is a plant pathologist by training and still actively involved in the plant science industry in Asia Pacific. If you'd like to meet him in person, Lawrence will be at the AG Southeast Conference on the 9th of November, giving his presentation, Managing the Dynamics of Volatility and Change in the Southeast Asia Agricultural Market. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There are a lot of advancements happening in Southeast Asia in terms of crop protection, biologicals, ag tech. So let's dive right in. Tan, I'll direct this first question to you. What are the top 5 opportunities in Southeast Asia for the market of chemical crop protection, biologicals, ag tech?
Thank you very much for the kind invitation. So again, everybody is gearing up for the whole digital space. I think the drone essentially, the whole APEC region, including ASEAN, have, with the support of the government, have been buying and own purchase, and we have different startup companies providing service provider into the farming community. So that's number one component that's exciting. Number 2 is also on the digital ag, whether it's data transformation, field studies. We're seeing a lot of investment coming in to Asia. If you look at the Ag Funder report that came out last year, also you're seeing a significant upstream investment by various startups. So that's second piece of the innovation piece. The third piece is on the seeds component. Also, we're seeing a lot of new innovation coming through. Acceptance of plant breeding innovation technology is also part of it. But last but not least is on the biologic side. There's a lot of excitement, a lot of pull and push by the government itself also to do it. But we'll come to about the challenges later on. But then the crop protection part is also seeing a lot of new innovation, new registration coming through. Of course, again, the challenges, you have another section for challenges, we'll come to that. But these are the few components that we're seeing driving the marketplace in the coming years also.
Okay.
Thank you.
Lawrence, can you add to any of those?
Yes. Well, I think Dr. Tan already quantified the statement about opportunities, about innovation, but it all has to related to the situation, the environment, and the economic status of Southeast Asia. And I speak more on behalf of the industry and looking at Southeast Asia as a market. If you look at the global crop protection market, 74 billion, Southeast Asia is probably 5%. Since we talk about biologicals, we cannot avoid not talking about fertilizer also, because that is one area that overlap. $200 billion market, and Southeast Asia is also 5%. So it's all, so all those technology opportunities available not only for Southeast Asia, but also available to other markets. But we have to recognize that the magnitudes and the investment and the effort which would be put behind those kind of investment into the opportunities cannot be the same as other countries. And this really, I would say, the the administration of the management of the countries, ASEAN to a large extent, need to recognize that it's not just kind of technology would come in and solve the problem. Technology is part of an investment. The economy itself is important. The way how this is managed is important. But we still, of course, see technologies. I mean, and technology in a way are created by, I mean, we see opportunity created not just by technology, but also by the environment. We definitely see that the South Asian economy is getting better. People are more affluent. For part of the area, you also have aging population. So it also creates opportunity for, say, kind of new innovation that come in, which is labor saving. Drone is one kind of, say, big opportunity. At the same time, consumers are getting more concerned about the health, concerning about the environment, concerning about especially the children. So it's created and also an opportunity for biologicals because unfortunately the perception of pesticides is not good. And that's not only in Asia, but I think it's in Asia is progressively getting more and more serious, which is also, in a way, the urbanization of Asia is very rapid. The agriculture GDP is not so important in Asia anymore. It's used to be much higher percentage. Now I would say on average, some country at 20%, some country, Singapore is almost 0 something percent. And then you have, say, 10 to 15% of the GDP. So that also kind of, say, put in the relative dimension, which is like kind of the technologies which come in, especially related to drones, but also drones would bring you is a vehicle to bring in AI, to bring in your, say, global navigation satellite system, say, drone analysis of crop situation, soil situation, say, remote sensing, data management, all that kind of thing would come in together with say, with the vehicle that those can be implemented. And so farming would become much more data management, but they also have to be very much related to, say, is the rural population of Southeast Asia be able to handle that? I mean, today, the urbanization is a consequence of the rural population, younger children got better educated, looking for a better job, which is human nature, and and at the same time, that come along with better pay and better, say, kind of living standard, which is an issue. I mean, so how to keep, say, educated population in the field, in the rural area. So that would allow you to really introduce a system to bring about the benefit. And then with that, say, a lot of technologies that can come in, there would be, say, well, I mean, for the industry, it may not be good news. There would, I mean, you would be reduction in pesticide usage, reduction in fertilizer, because now the technology allow you to have a variable rate application. You don't have to put as much products into the field as before. So that's also bring a different dimensions. And then when biological, well, I mean, and the regulatory environment is not exactly, I mean, it's really looking to minimize hardship in the market, in the hardship to the population, which is a political consumer demand. And that would also, but at the same time, bring about a situation that it would be easier to introduce organic, say, farming, organic, say, market, which is much more lucrative than the traditional market. You can already see in some of the big city in Southeast Asia that you go to supermarket, and if you look at Southeast Asia, probably the most expensive country to produce vegetables is Japan. And you now see a lot of Japanese vegetables air freight in the morning from Japan to Southeast Asia, big supermarket. selling at price 5 times, 10 times more than the local vegetables and selling like hotcake. So, I mean, the consumer behavior has completely changed. It's not only safety, it is the concern for safety that people are aware of. So that would bring in kind of, say, organic farming, that would bring in higher, say, farm gate prices to the rural community. So all those would be opportunities, but how to exploit those opportunities would be different ballgame.
Hey, great. Thank you for that detailed answer. Let's jump to our next question. What segment in Southeast Asia have the most growth and opportunities?
Which segment?
Well, that's segments of the countries maybe that which countries can you export to, the countries that are growing in influence, countries that have industrial development, that kind of thing.
Again, going back to what Lawrence has said, I think a lot of countries are looking at agriculture export today. We are getting across Asia Pacific, we're getting a lot of Australian products, whether it's fruits and etc. are coming into Asia. We're seeing a significant export of Australian products. And then you see also Korean products, whether it's fruits and vegetables coming into ASEAN, if I want to segregate that. And also like what Lawrence says right now, if you go to this Japanese-based supermarket, a lot of them carrying a wide range of products coming through. But reversely, we're seeing products from Thailand going into Europe. I have a friend that exports bell pepper every day in cold cargo out to Amsterdam. So again, we are looking at the global opportunity because of both production price and also higher compliance on the good agriculture products level. So we are seeing Vietnam exporting. So if you look at it, the whole Asia or ASEAN is also utilizing the agriculture economy, not only providing domestic food security, affordable food with the current technology, but everybody is also eyeing an exporting market. And just to segue out from beside the food, Vietnam is also key exporter of flowers back to Taiwan. They are also a production hub, just like Kenya exporting flowers into what you call UK. So we're seeing a spectrum of different products with greenhouses coming through, and then serving as a Asia hub with a current very effective transportation. We are connecting globally. So we are seeing that momentum of global transportation of various products that's going out, whether it's less perishable to a perishable, are very efficiently being transported. So there's multiple domain in chances. People are looking at different crops coming through. For example, we fly, a very good example is mushroom. That is in-season fruits are also being transported based on timing. So that ecosystem with an affluent society, now we are seeing more and more intercontinental movement of agriculture. That's why government are very, very proactive in building their economy, building the ecosystem with technology investment to gear up for an exporting market, whether it's for Europe and also between an intra-ASEAN commodity trade. So I will stop here, and maybe Lawrence can also add in a bit more.
Oh, I guess when we talk about Southeast Asia exports, we cannot stop talking about palm oil, which is more, I mean, which is, I don't know, people see that as a good news or bad news. I mean, there is, I mean, basically today, I mean, the Asian palm oil is controlled export market. I mean, the entire palm oil export is based on Indonesia and Malaysia, and Indonesia is even growing in importance. But at the same time, we also kind of facing challenges, especially recently in relationship to what is classified as deforestation of kind of endangering, say, kind of rainforest, endangering, say, rainforest species, orangutan, and all that kind of, say, issue are being kind of surfacing, and to some extent, I mean, if you look at the situation of EU, basically EU is saying that palm oil from Malaysia, Indonesia are not welcome. I mean, because of the forest situation, and that's independent of what is happening now. It is even historical event which would affect the status of your ability to export. Already there are kind of say roundtable for sustainable palm oil production, which is a global NGO, but of course at the same time Malaysia and Indonesia also kind of introduce their own sustainable palm oil production scheme, which is, I would say, extremely much more much well organized. I would say today it is well organized, kind of well administered, good reporting, very transparent. The good guys and bad guys are very clear. Of course, it is a biological discussions whether whether you should be growing oil palm in pit soil. If you're standing on pit soil, you can't do anything but to grow oil palm on pit soil. You can't change the soil underneath your feet. But that is creating a concern because people also associate that the pit soil, the burning of the pit soil, especially when there's a fire, is introducing carbon dioxide into the air and all that kind of thing. So this is opportunity. And then, one big thing, if you go to China and talk to people nowadays, everyone want to have a piece of durian. And that is kind of creating enormous boom in Thailand, Malaysia, Vietnam. Actually a lot, even some of the oil palm area has been dug up to produce durian. So, opportunity are certainly there, which is based on the ability of Southeast Asia with its plantation traditions, with its fertile soil, tropical weather, rainfall, allow a lot of this, kind of opportunity coming from agriculture. And have to kind of emphasize that palm oil is a very labor efficient, agriculture. You don't need a forced labor to go in every day, plow, replant, harvest, that kind of thing. You put a tree in there, you keep harvesting for a long time. If you manage it correctly. And then of course we have the durian from Thailand, the banana and pineapple from Philippines has been around for a long time and is really kind of gaining important, especially in relationship to the increasing affluence of China, which is an enormous market, is almost a bottomless market. When they start buying everything, sometimes even you can't find durian locally because it's all exported to China. And so it is enormous opportunity for Southeast Asia when it comes to the crop area on exportation. And that is really require a lot of, proper management of the external relationship with and presentation of, Asia as a kind of a safe place to produce valuable, good and safe food, good value, and that recognition has to be kind of basically very carefully managed by I would say the administration, by the government, and also well presented to the world. So it's kind of in that sense, marketing of the export commodities are also important.
Great. Again, thank you for your responses. You mentioned, Lawrence, the labor issues. Lots of
Yes.
as I think it's happened around the world. Are there any particular countries in Asia where that aging population is particularly an issue?
I would say it's really a general situation. That really, at the same time related to the affluence of the economy, the reduce of family size, better education. So it's basically affecting kind of like all country in a way. But the fortunate, sorry to use that word, but if you look at the Southeast Asia as a whole, you do have variation. You have kind of a more advanced agricultural kind of say countries like Vietnam, Thailand, Malaysia, progressively Indonesia. You have also more developing, I mean, kind of agriculture economies. You have Cambodia, you have Myanmar, Laos can be a big coffee producer, and so there is. I mean, it would progressively transfer from the more affluent country in a way that the more resulting in more labor shortage to countries where there is still plenty of labor, which is say not so quickly urbanized labor force available to say to produce the crops, and then it would be how do you really want to continue that situation, or do you or do you want to really bring in a different way of farming? I mean, mechanizations in a way of technology, drone, AI, say kind of a data management type of agriculture, smartphone. I mean, today in Thailand, with one smartphone, you can farm a head of rice easily. I mean, you don't even have to step into the paddy. I mean, you just pick up the phone, you call someone, and someone come and say power your land. You call someone come and see your land, transplant your rice if necessary, spray your crop, harvest your rice, bring it to the dryer. So with one smartphone, you can do farming. So that is the dimension of technology versus labor shortage.
Okay,
Then,
great.
very good question, because based on the Indonesia report, by 2065, there'll be no farmer in Indonesia if the current trend of non-mobilization and non-bringing youth into agriculture. I was in Rome this week, last week, is to talk about youth in agriculture. And we are seeing a significant, even we got Japanese farmers, younger age at 20, 30, doing milk industry, husbandry. So there is a group of what you call promotion to bring agriculture back into the youth, but changing the whole dynamics in the sense that agriculture is an entrepreneur, agriculture is a business, as opposed to agriculture as a like the previous generation. So across APAC, most of the aging farmers are 60 and above. So we really need to mobilize the younger group to make agriculture more incentivized, and therefore the whole technology piece really entice them to join the sector. And then with proper government policy, in the sense that whether loan is ability, whether you get startups to come in, etc., with innovation, with the whole digital space, I think we can change the tone, and also with different better working environment with greenhouses and etc. With vertical farming, we are bringing a new generation of youth into agriculture space. I just want to add on to what Lawrence says with the current pool of farmers, but we are bringing a new trend of people. And also we are building different businesses like drone service provider. They are all by young people who wants to say, I become a service provider, but then they fly the drones, they understand the technology is now building their capacity, understand what crop protection does with it, what type to fly, and etc. But you're getting a new generation of entrepreneurs coming through. Thank you.
Thank you. You mentioned drones, you mentioned labor, you both mentioned biological products. Have there been any changes to the regulatory in any countries that are pretty, that would have a meaningful difference?
Well, I mean, I don't want to create too many enemies. I mean, tonight, the management of agriculture, the growing, the crop protection, the management of that was a system which was designed many years ago for conventional pesticides. I mean, basically, well, slightly before the war and after the war, the system was developed. I mean, and we can now debate whether it should be based on hazard or based on risk benefit. But so now we come, but new technologies come in, including say the kind of AI, drone, and that kind of technology, and biological. So what is really not changing, not moving, is that we're putting all this new technology, or this new idea, or this innovation on top of a system which is not designed to manage it. Every country have started. Some of them issue legislation just this year to say how to make biological registration easier, how to make, say, drone application, product formulation, environmental impact easier. But it's all making it easier by scraping off the conventional system. We really need, actually, and not really just for Southeast Asia, but it's more important for Southeast Asia because even the original system was not designed for Southeast Asia. So we problem is not really the system is changing. The problem is the system is not changing, and system is not changing enough to allow these technologies to be introduced properly and really to benefit, the economy. And then at the same time, we have to, anything can be done. Say, if you want me to go from point A to B, I can drive around 10 times to get to there, or I can go straight to there. And I can, say, use a Rolls Royce, or I can ride a bicycle. We have to recognize that the farm gate price in Asia is bad. The price of rice, the price of vegetables, which is the basic kind of requirement for, say, consumer, it is low. And that is really, and there isn't any really like much subsidies from the government. Just now, Stanley mentioned about, say, young people coming into agriculture. One issue, which is not just for Southeast Asia, but we have more of those kind of problems, is that it's natural disaster. You have a typhoon, you have a drought, you have flood, you have rainfall, say, washing away the crop, the plantation. There is no crop insurance. So as a kind of a young person who loves farming, who loves kind of contribution to agriculture, who loves to bring good agricultural produce to the consumers, it is a dangerous business. Of course, you can look at agrochemical company, the share prices are not great nowadays. It is just as risky to be in agriculture in Southeast Asia. And really a proper system of, really looking after the rural community, looking after agriculture, protecting the agriculture, which also people, everybody recognizes as important. Food security. We all talk about food security, but if you have no, I don't promote subsidies, but if you don't have a fallback position in case there's anything happen, like crop insurance, that kind of thing, it is a very risky business to be in agriculture in Southeast Asia by any dimensions. And so I think that is one, in a reverse way, not answering your question about changes, but changes are important. And some of the changes are not there. Some of the changes are building on the wrong foundation, and we really need to address those issues.
Great, thank you.
And
Tan,
I agree to that. Yeah, what Lawrence mentioned is correct. It is because many times the pesticide board have not correlate themselves back to the other global protocols like CBD, etc., conventional biologicals, whereby live organism can be moved or not, and then going back to a lot of regulatory requirement that is not yet established. So we are, as a team, as a region, we are trying to really work with regulators to really establish a much more functional system, understanding that the government has a very simplistic view that, don't worry, come in, we want biologics to be registered, bring in your biologics, we want to transition. But the problem is that the infrastructure, even from the manufacturing side, quality per se. How do you upscale your product? How do you do your field test data per se? Like there's many countries has no direct data portability when the products is established already in, let's say, Europe or established already in Brazil. I want to transfer this data to Asia in particular country. It may not be direct transported. Unlike our crop protection traditional product, our active ingredient, we have our data. You can then, this is the dossier, this is submission, this is a field trial. But for biologics, we are still a journey, but a challenging journey to move together with the APAC, the regulators here across board.
Very good. Just before we move on, I just want to mention that we will be answering questions at the end of the session. Just for anybody that has one, just click on that little Q&A icon at the bottom of your screen and type it in there, and we'll get to it in a little bit. So what areas in Southeast Asia, you referenced this earlier, Tan, to the challenges, so what areas in Southeast Asia are posing the most hindrances and why?
I think as many countries struggle. For us, the developed countries, whether it's Korea, Japan, Australia, New Zealand, are very, very stable in terms of regulatory environment. But today, there are other countries that we face challenges, like Thailand and Vietnam are the key. India continues to be a challenge in delays in registration. So they have inherent problem that we need to try to support them. But nevertheless, those are our difficult countries per se. Malaysia is pretty stable. Indonesia is stable. Philippines is moving on. And then the last piece, the bigger chunk, is the 3 LDCs country. Our neighbor, Laos, Cambodia, and Myanmar, essentially needs to further strengthen its regulatory environment so that we can bring our products into a much more timely manner and a more scientific environment. So just a broad spectrum of where we are. China also has its own challenges in terms of domestic registration, but for international products or new innovation to be introduced, that is currently in a very difficult situation. So just a macro view, top line, those are the key areas that we are that's watch out. But of course, with different products, if you are currently off patent or patent product have a different dimension. I'm just giving you a general scheme of things. In addition to it, moving forward, Thailand there is a new chemical act coming into play. It's still being drafted. To what extent it will be tabled for approval, etc. As you know, there's a new government in place. Those will probably take some time, but essentially it is in the horizon that they will change its into a new framework soon. And India, there's a go ahead, please, Lawrence.
No, it just kind of always when you mention Thailand, this excites me. I mean, we talk about, the regulation of Thailand has really been changing, improving. Kind of bringing in new dimensions, kind of better organized. But as an industry, we look at Thailand. They have, say, kind of market information which are published, importation of various products which are published. If you look at last year, 2022, I think the market was about $700 million. 70%, well, more than 50% of that came from China. Plus about almost 20% coming from India. There's 70-something% China, India, basically generics. There's 30% market, which is for, say, innovative R&D company to kind of tackle, which is facing kind of some of the more challenging regulatory environment. So, I say we have to be more realistic when we look at, say, kind of the regulation changes, whether it would be, and at the same time, also mentioned about India. And that's where one of the big arguments we have today about data protection. Not today, last 10 years. So, what is the kind of, the fair paying ground? To really, invest, put your money, put your effort I mean, to bring new technology, new efforts in the market when really the economic return is highly uncertain in Southeast Asia.
So what do people need to be aware of when doing business in this region?
Well,
Lawrence.
and he always want to make allow me to make more enemies than him. I mean, yeah. Well, I would say the challenge is the market is small. And consumer are not, I would say, are not in a way ignorant about what is farming, what is agriculture. It won't say no pesticides, basically, and it's belief in biologies, biologicals. I mean, you go around, you talk to, say, the farming community, you talk to administrators, you talk to, say, traders in agriculture, you talk about biologicals, you come away with 10,000 different definitions. There isn't really a real definition about biologicals. And biological actually cut across from crop protection to fertilizer. I mean, a big part of the biological market is in the fertilizer market. And unfortunately, also today is managed as a fertilizer. So so this and that would be the challenges. And then at the same time, I mean, we are unfortunately, I believe we are learning from EU, which has kind of one of the more difficult to understand regulatory concern. Nobody talk about risk benefit anymore. People talk about hazard. So that really and taking that philosophy and introducing taking the wrong philosophy, introducing into your own environment, which is already got its own inherent problems, is really making it much more complicated. Southeast Asia need to develop a system which is for Southeast Asia, which is workable for Southeast Asia based on the economy, based on how you manage, say, the risk, how you manage the hazard, and how you work together with the agriculture. I mean, we in ASEAN, there is this thing called the GAP, Good Agricultural Practice. The last document was issued in 2006. There were discussions about upgrading that. And actually, a lot of people forgot that ASEAN has a GLP document. And that GLP document is actually the basis of good agriculture. It just is not controlling the agriculture, the crop protection products, the fertilizer, the environmental issue by regulation, but making the farmers more, or the agricultural workers, the agricultural community more scientific, more, say, more be able to protect themselves, more to recognize what is safety, what is risk, and better to manage kind of the environment which they work in. So I would say, I mean, we have really kind of we need a kind of a regulatory regime which is more practical, facing what are the challenges in Southeast Asia, and not just adopting latest fashionable regulation from other countries.
Thank you, Lawrence, for that. Dan, just to add in, just to give you another perspective, Asia in 2008 was the market value is about 9 billion. As of this last year, the market has grown to 25 billion. Okay, but the major challenge is no longer a volume discussion or value discussion. It is the number of mode of action in the marketplace, because we are seeing certain countries have lesser mode of action than what is registered in Netherlands, an EU country, but it's laden with overwhelmingly different brand names for a single product. So we are trying to get the regulators to understand also the importance of mode of action. We are working on mode of action labeling to help farmers know that they need to use different product to manage their long-term feasibility of that product in the market, and to understand that different disease will need different mode of action and not to create resistance. So there are opportunities to continue to work with government to ensure that we deliver the innovation part with the latest technology. With the other piece is also usage per hectare basis. We are looking at that. As you know, our member companies from CropLife are putting in lower and lower AI per hectare basis, is to continue to drive those innovation to allow a fast track registration of those technology into the hands of farmers, so that they can also become much more cost effective and efficient in terms of competitive advantage with their neighbors, and also domestic market, and also for export market. Because if you continue to spray a high volume that doesn't give you the efficacy as a newer AI, doesn't benefit them. So we need to also change mindset, talk to regulators and sensitize them on the importance. But the third part is, most important, is to help build capacity and capability. We're seeing a generation gap that the current toxicologists and etc. have all retired. We are seeing across many countries, we are seeing regulators in the 30s or 40s. So there is also a capability that we need to build so that they can reinforce its science-based regulation and then continue to guide the local registration domain. So that's where a transition is happening. But to what extent that the government can enable those people to come in. And we struggle with this in India also, whether it's Hyderabad, you go in, how many toxicologists we have that can drive the number of dossiers that has been put through, and then the timeline. The timeline is something that I need a lot of pain to explain that, because the timeline varies across the region. For Australia, there's a quarterly report. We can know by this year how many doses will be published, what is the effective 98% going rate, and etc. Whereas other countries, we're trying to get them into e-registration format so that they know and we know where is our queue, and be able to help manage that environment in terms of providing proper regulatory training and capacity building. So I just want to put this in addition to the differences across the region.
Thank you. I have one more question before we jump into our listeners' questions. So we just have a couple minutes before we want to get to that. So this is the chance for you to sort of look to the future, put on your predictor hat, and what will, in 5 years, what will crop protection, biological, ag tech, how will that look in this market?
To me, it's going to be a very bright future, because agriculture continues to be a core activity. You cannot walk away with every country right now coming out from post-COVID, coming out from the current detracted in terms of long-term conflict. You look at China. China has just quantum leap and says, I want biotechnology. Their first field trial is 250,000 hectare, part one of the field trial for biotech corn. And, Indonesia will get biotech corn. Before that, China will go biotech corn with 40 million hectares. Indonesia is going live by next year with biotech corn with 4 million hectares to start off. So that has turned a lot of eyes, in a sense that every country is reinvesting in technology in order to protect its self-sufficiency to a certain level. India also quantum leap into the plant breeding innovation space. They have approved, they will be approving plant breeding for drought resistance rice coming through. China just also approved new plant breeding innovation products. So again, you're seeing that dynamics of the government, that they need to invest locally, and it will be a whole range of technology, and overlapping it is a whole series of investment coming through. Last year, $10 billion have gone into doing startups and innovation piece across the world, just on the input sector, $10 billion. That is excluding our member company that puts in 6.8 billion every year, 3 billion for crop protection and 3.8 billion for seeds. So you see that globally, there's so much investment coming in. And this is where we cannot walk away from agriculture. There are more technology coming to play to help us produce at a much more efficient level, whether it's vertical farming, whether it's drone related, and etc. We see a positive agriculture scenario moving forward. But then the piece is then the climate change, how fast we can deploy technology for climate adaptation mitigation, the pest and disease that is coming through in terms of then the temperature, because if it hits 2 degrees, we'll be losing 20% of our crop. So seed industry will be a key dominant for new drought tolerant, heat tolerant, but the crop protection piece with new emerging disease will also come out that we need to manage. Just like the fall armyworm that came out, you're seeing more and more locusts coming through. So definitely the crop protection sector will be an integral part of us protecting the food security of our respective country. Thank you.
I mean, I can only agree that the future is bright. There's a lot of innovation, a lot of technologies coming through. Some of those innovation technology doesn't even require, say, our industry investment. I mean, the global navigation satellite system is there already. A lot of the robotics are there. One thing also we have to recognize that there is another active player in the market now, which are machinery company. I mean, nowadays, I mean, crop protection is no more a chemical kind of a domain. I mean, a lot of the crop protection, especially when it comes to weeds control, can be handled by, I mean, will be taken over by machinery companies rather than the traditional chemical companies. And I also would say that the export opportunity are enormous. I mean, palm oil will continue to be important. I mean, we in Asia, we treat palm oil as a cooking oil. I mean, the opportunity of palm oil as a biofuel is enormous. I mean, Indonesia just implemented the B35 this year. I mean, 35% palm oil into the, say, diesel, biodiesel. And say it can go to 40, it can go to 45. I mean, that part is, I mean, that just for, I mean, the 1 or 2 countries in South Asia, when the kind of, say, smoke is clear about kind of the different environmental issue, which people are concerned about, say, palm production, then the international market would be wide open. And it's still, I mean, this is a crop it would continue to be dominated by Indonesia and Malaysia. Tropical foods, Chinese consumer have higher and higher appetites for tropical foods coming from Southeast Asia. It cannot really be produced. I mean, China are doing a lot of investment in Hainan Island, trying to replicate that production. I mean, it will never be enough. It doesn't have the environment. It doesn't have the traditional varieties. And for next 5 years, it would be still great opportunity for, I mean, Southeast Asia, oil palm, tropical foods, banana, pineapple from the Philippines. So I would say opportunity are bright. I am not too sure about the expansion of biologicals, because I don't think really people understand biologicals enough. I mean, it would either become a snake oil or it would become high tech. So whichever way it will go.
Thank you very much. Let's jump into our questions. We have several from our listeners. Again, any ones that we cannot get to, we will seek if our panelists can get us some responses, and we'll send those out down the road. The first question is there a growing demand for organic fertilizers and biostimulants in the region? Okay, sorry. Okay. Yes, there is. I mean, there is a growing demand there, and I think the growing demand would even further expand if there is proper regulation about how to classify organic farming. Because at this moment, what is important is that when you do, I mean, organic farming, you bring your produce to the market,
you can charge high price, which is, which is the case in North America, in Europe, in Australia. You have a certified system for organic farming that would bring a lot of, say, requirement into biologicals, organic fertilizer. Biostimulant is kind of is really it is really not well defined. I mean, there are still a lot of snake oil out there. There's still a lot of good products. Is how to find that distinction and how to make the proper introductions. I mentioned earlier about, say, the kind of that the control system, the regulatory system is based on traditional conventional pesticides, but we also have to recognize that the company approach biologicals are also based on conventional pesticides. The development team, the sales team, the technical team in the field, a lot of them don't understand how to really introduce biologicals and what is, and what kind of, say, a way to really make that work and make that kind of beneficial to farming. So it requires some kind of really some revolution in kind of in the way we approach crop protection and fertilization.
Then, that's a very pertinent question. Sustainability is going to be keyword and a key driver moving forward. So there is opportunity because both the soil and environment, people are looking at transitioning and incorporating organic management into the current agriculture system. So there's opportunity because there needs to be a coexistence of both technology. People are looking at a organic way to really manage the roots growth and etc. So again, there is coexistence of technology, rebuild the carbon soil content, etc., and then enhance with rhizobium for nitrogen attraction. So there's coexistence of technology that will help propel the agriculture space. So it's not either or that everybody is transitioning to a purely organic fertilizer, but definitely there's opportunity for a coexistence of technology.
Thank you. Our next question comes, I think, from a different part of the world, but wants to know, its ties to Asia, and that's Brazil. Agriculture-wise, networking, market-wise, is there what's the relationship between those two areas?
As a day-to-day job, our relationship with Brazil is very much on soy canola exports into China. In terms of the multilateral trade, the trade that we are seeing, China buying more and more products coming up from Latin America. So that's where we see our role. We're seeing what they call Brazilian governments become much more active in the agriculture space across ASEAN also. So that's what I'm seeing. But then again, technology-wise, Brazil today is a big player per se. They have their own system. The regulatory system is still, although Anvisa is sometimes you hear different story, but nevertheless, they are still a very big market. It itself is a $10 billion market. So that's what I see at the current juncture. Maybe Lawrence will have a different view of your collaboration with Brazil.
These are like two extreme corner of the world. It's kind of agriculture. So I can't really comment.
Fair enough. Next question is, how have mating disruption products, are they acceptable by farmers in Southeast Asia?
I would say, well, there are different ways to disrupt mating. If you say talk about pheromone, that is a complicated issue because people consider that to be some kind of hormone and people would be affected, the natural environment would be affected. So that is more complicated. But there are, say, like traps, there are baits, there are, say, aromatic, say, disruption kind of material. The problem of Southeast Asia when it comes to that kind of technology is that the farm is too small. I mean, you can only disrupt something if you control an area where the things that you want to disrupt cannot move out of the area. If I do it in my farm and you are my next door neighbor, you don't do it, I mean, there is no disruption. So I would say that, I mean, that mating disruption idea may work in some area, like say maybe oil palm plantation, bananas, pineapple, but it would not really be kind of workable in most of the kind of rural area where farm size are too small, intermingle with one another, everyone use different technology. That would not be so easy.
Dan, did you want to add anything?
No, very clear.
Okay. I think time for one more quick question, and that is, why are biological pesticides not growing as forecasted? Is it farmers not accepting them, or are some other reasons?
I think Lawrence have mentioned part and parcel is to be again fair is the products in the market in terms of efficacy is variable, number one. Number two, a lot of, if you understand biology, biology, there's a lot of pathovar or biovar that is not tested for the local environment robustly to really say I could manage them and be able to demonstrate. Number two, the third piece is the registration process itself that is not giving the predictable timeline to bring the particular product into the market. And number four is the production. When you're not production on site, are you bringing it from third country? How long does it sit there before it gets to the market? Shelf life issue, efficacy post farm issue. There's a lot of discussion. It's not purely I bring a product today, I import, it gets to the market, I do a promotion, and then I see the efficacy. As you also know, biological, the efficacy and what you see is not as dramatic as a crop protection product, whereby you can pick a moth the next morning or a insect. This takes time, so farmers takes longer time to accustom to a higher threshold of damage on the crop before they can see an efficacy after that. So again, that's when we teach about IPM, is to look at how many numbers of insects you're seeing in a plant before you apply both either chemical. So there is also a learning curve, but those are the few components that Lawrence has mentioned, and clearly it's regulatory environment, product efficacy and reliability, and then is the product effective against the insect that we are working on in that domestic market, because it may not have the 100% efficacy as the product that was coming from a third country that has been proven that regulatory data has submitted. So with that, maybe Lawrence, you want to add? Thank you.
I would kind of put the opposite way to answer that question. The fastest growing biological market is Europe, and the fastest crop protection collapsing market is Europe. In 2 months' time, they may do glyphosate. So, I mean, so one go up, one come down. So, I mean, Southeast Asia is not at that stage, and also, I mean, and is the biological growth in Europe natural? We cannot say so.
That's great, gentlemen. Thank you very much for your participation today. It's been very enlightening. I'd like to thank everybody for joining us. Again, this recording will be available in 2 weeks on agribusinessglobal.com or through the email to all those people who registered. If you'd like more information about agribusiness, the Agribusiness Global Southeast Asia Conference, or to see Lawrence there, you can visit abgseasia.com, abgsoutheastasia.com. Again, thank you very much for joining us, and we'll get to the rest of the questions. We will get to and have some responses for you down the road as well. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.